Welcome back. The U.S. military strike on 3 nuclear sites in Iran is raising urgent questions about the Iranian military and how they may respond. Joining us this morning is SMU Political Science Professor Dr. Matthew Wilson. Thank you so much for being here. I think about like when President Trump was campaigning and he kept saying that we need to stop these endless wars, engaging in these forever wars. And here we are now entering into this. How do you think his supporters are reacting?
Well, the polling data so far suggests that there is pretty broad-based support for what President Trump has done here among his coalition. And we've seen that reflected on Capitol Hill, where the great majority of Republicans have been behind what he's done. I think President Trump would say that this is not a forever war. This was a definite targeted strike with a defined objective that did not involve the commitment of ground forces. Now, we'll see where things go from here. But so far, I think he's in pretty good standing with the great majority of his own coalition.
Yeah, Trump has said, okay, now Iran, it's time to be peaceful. I mean, how often do we have a country that you attack and then goes, okay, yeah, I'm done? Like, that's not normally how it works, right? I mean, normally there is some retaliation.
Yeah, and Iran will have to make some sort of at least symbolic retaliation just to satisfy their domestic court of public opinion, to show that they are not powerless, that they are not just completely lying down to the United States. But the reality is they don't have a lot of good options. They are isolated. They don't have a lot of friends around the world. Their proxies in the Middle East, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, have been severely degraded by Israeli action. They just don't have a lot of choices for effective retaliation against the United States. So they'll have to be seen to do something. But then after that, it's greatly in their interest to reach some accommodation.
Yeah, Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Iranian foreign minister, called the airstrikes unprovoked aggression. But we're not really seeing Russia or China jump in and really stand with Iran, right?
They'll stand with Iran rhetorically, but in terms of any sort of substantive action, it doesn't look like that's in the cards. I mean, as people may know, Russia's kind of busy right now. They've got their own problems going on in Ukraine. China is not focused principally on what's going on in the Middle East. And in fact, China wants to keep the Straits of Hormuz open to keep oil flowing to their own domestic market. So there are some really good reasons why I would be very surprised to see Russia or China get actively involved in this situation.
Now, I know some lawmakers are saying this is an illegal attack, but you said it because they feel like the president should have gotten congressional approval. But when you just mentioned, well, President Trump said this is just a kind of a one and done, that's a different, we're talking about something different than as far as what a president can and cannot do, right?
That's right. The War Powers Act requires that the president get congressional authorization for a commitment of forces to a hostile situation for greater than 60 days. This, he does not anticipate to be a commitment for greater than 60 days. He says he did notify the Speaker of the House and the Leader of the Senate in advance of this action. So I think he's at least minimally compliant with the War Powers Resolution. I don't see any constitutional challenges to what President Trump has done really going anywhere.
What will surprise you? What do you think is next?
Well, the ball's really in Iran's court.
Okay, so that's what we're waiting for.
That's right. How they choose to respond is going to determine how this unrolls from here on out. So we'll see whether they decide to stand down or whether they decide to really escalate this.
All right. Dr. Matthew Wilson, always appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you so much.